Giovanni sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. His life, until recently, had seemed perfect. 40 years old, an engineer in a local company in a small town, married to Laura, a beautiful and charming woman of 35. They had met almost 5 years earlier, and despite his initial hesitations about marriage, his love for her had pushed him to take the big step. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Giovanni was deeply in love and felt lucky to share his life with her. Laura was an emerging writer, busy completing her first novel. She often spent her days writing, immersed in her stories while Giovanni went to work. They lived a quiet life, away from the chaos of the city, surrounded by friends and family. They seemed like the perfect couple in everyone's eyes, but behind those quiet walls there were problems that no one knew about. A year earlier, Laura had started talking about wanting to have a baby. She wanted to become a mother and believed it was the right time to take that step. Giovanni, however, was not entirely convinced. He did not feel ready for that kind of responsibility and preferred to wait. But seeing the growing desire in his wife's eyes, he decided to indulge her. He loved Laura and did not want to disappoint her. Months passed, but the pregnancy did not arrive. Laura began to become more and more frustrated, and her behavior changed. Each failure seemed to undermine her confidence and happiness. Her anxieties increased, and Giovanni found himself dealing with an increasingly nervous and distant wife. The pressure began to become unbearable for him too. He tried to comfort her, to reassure her, but inside he began to feel inadequate. It was during that time that Giovanni decided to undergo medical tests. He wanted to understand if there was something wrong. Maybe he was the problem, he thought. When the results came back, they were devastating. Giovanni was sterile. The news left him speechless. He hadn't wanted a child, but in the last few months he had begun to imagine that life as a father. The thought that he would never be able to realize that dream destroyed him. Giovanni was paralyzed by grief. Every day he tried to find the courage to talk to Laura about it, but he couldn't. Every time he tried, his voice would freeze. The fear of disappointing her, of destroying her dreams, held him back. And so time passed, and the truth remained buried inside him. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Laura sat him down on the couch and, with a radiant smile, told him that she was pregnant. Giovanni felt like he was dying inside. How could this be possible? He knew he was sterile. He tried to mask his confusion and share his wife's joy, but inside, he felt only despair. Something was wrong. Are you enjoying our story? In the days that followed, Giovanni couldn't get the possibility that Laura had cheated on him out of his head. He decided to take the fertility test again, desperately hoping that the first one had been a mistake. But the results confirmed his sterility once again. There was no doubt about it. The baby couldn't be his. Reality hit him like a punch in the stomach. He was afraid to face the situation, but he knew he had to do something. While Laura was excitedly planning the party to announce her pregnancy, Giovanni began to watch her every move with suspicion. He noticed little details that had previously escaped him. There was something strange in the way Laura was behaving with Luca, their new neighbor. Luca was a young lawyer who had recently moved in next door, and he seemed to be very close to Laura. During the party, Giovanni carefully observed every interaction between the two. Every time Luca approached Laura, she seemed to light up in a way that made him shiver. The glances between them lasted too long, and the smiles were too intimate to be simple neighborly courtesy. Jealousy began to creep into Giovanni's heart. The suspicion became unbearable. Giovanni knew he had to act, but he didn't want to make accusations without proof, so he decided to investigate. Over the next few days, he managed to gain access to Laura's computer. He began searching through her emails, and what he found was even worse than he had imagined. At first, Laura and Luca's conversation seemed harmless. They discussed books, movies, and other trivialities. But as Giovanni read more, the tone of the emails changed. Sweet words, intimate phrases, and promises of love began to emerge. Each message was a stab in Giovanni's heart. Not only had Laura cheated on him, but she was planning to leave him. In one of the most devastating emails, Laura wrote to Luca that, after the birth of the child, it would be the right time to ask for a divorce. They had planned everything: the child, the separation, and even how they would obtain maintenance to start a new life together. The coldness with which Laura spoke of him, as if he were just an obstacle to be eliminated, made him shiver. Giovanni felt a fierce anger rising inside him. He decided not to confront Laura right away. He wanted to gather all the evidence he could and plan a revenge that would be as cold as it was calculated. He photographed all the emails, collected every detail, and began to play the part of the loving husband, waiting for the right moment to strike. He continued to support Laura during her pregnancy, attended every doctor's visit, and made sure she took all her medications. Every day was torture, but Giovanni remained cold and calculating. He wanted Laura and Luca to pay for what they had done. Finally, the day of the birth arrived. Giovanni accompanied Laura to the hospital, maintaining a calm and serene appearance. After settling her in the room, he looked at her and told her that he was going to call Luca so that he could be there too. Laura's face went pale. She tried to hide her panic, but Giovanni could see the terror in her eyes. With a cold smile, Giovanni showed her the results of his fertility test, along with the divorce papers he had already prepared. He explained that he knew everything: the emails, the betrayal, and their plan to destroy him. Laura tried to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. There was no way out. Giovanni signed the divorce papers in front of her, definitively closing the chapter of their relationship. The relationship between Laura and Luca quickly dissolved. Luca did not overcome the period of postpartum stress that Laura was experiencing. Guilty for having divided a family, he decided to move to another city, far away from everything and everyone. She couldn't handle the tensions and difficulties that situation had created. Laura, now alone, found herself having to deal not only with her new motherhood, but also with the sense of emptiness left by both men in her life, trying to rebuild a new reality for herself and her child. Despite his revenge, Giovanni didn't feel the satisfaction he'd hoped for. The pain was still there, deep and throbbing. He felt empty, betrayed, and aware that nothing could repair the emotional damage he'd suffered. But he knew that, with time, he would find the strength to move on and build a new life. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next time.